Okay, gents, let's preview the first week of this new Premier League season. I can't believe we're quite here. Opening weekend of the campaign. Let's get straight into it. Big game of the weekend, Tottenham against Manchester City. Andy Edwards, what are you expecting from this? Because Man City, a lot of their players haven't been around for most of the preseason. Does that play into Tottenham's hands and their new manager, Nuno Espirito Santo?
Maybe. I mean, there's few Tottenham players that haven't been around either, and players that have been there that haven't played. I'm talking Tanguy and Ndombele again. This is another manager that he's now finding some issues with in terms of like getting playing time and stuff. So maybe that's a little bit of a worrisome thing for Tottenham. It's going to be a hectic start to the season. That's the only word I can really think to describe it, because we're going to have 3 match weeks. Then we're going to go straight into an international break where we're going to fit in 3 games for international teams. We're going to come straight back and then into another international break where we do 3 games again when it's usually 2. So it's just going to be a lot of disjointedness early in the season. So I do look at these early first couple of week games, especially as opportunities for maybe some of the lesser teams, the smaller teams, the teams hoping to punch above their weight this season to maybe steal a few points off of some of the big sides. So I would back Tottenham more in this game, in this scenario, than I would at any other time that they were to play Manchester City or Chelsea or Liverpool or Manchester United, any of the big title contenders, any other point of the season. So I do think that they've got an opportunity. I'm curious to see what it's going to look like. I'll put a flag down here now. I don't think it's going to be as pragmatic or defensive looking as people seem to think it is with Nuno in charge. I think Nuno had what he had at Wolves. Nuno has had what he's had at other stops in his career, and he's always been pretty adaptive. It's not always looked like that, and that's just kind of what we're familiar with because it's in the Premier League, and so we've seen it. I think he will look at the squad and say, well, I've got a lot of great attacking players. I got a lot of great central midfielders who can get on the ball and make things happen. Try to use that while still being responsible defensively, but not 3 at the back with 2 wing backs that are just there to defend the way that it was at Wolves sometimes.
I like the fact he's had Skip and Højbjerg alongside each other a lot in preseason. I think that gives him a solid base and allows those fullbacks to push on, Reguilon, maybe Doherty if he's playing out there. That brings out the best in them. And it all depends on Kane, doesn't it? Of course, what he's going to do. He's going to play this weekend. But it is a good time to play Manchester City. They, of course, lost to Leicester in the Community Shield. Had a lot of young players out there on the pitch during the game. And they've had their number, Tottenham, in recent seasons. They beat Man City at home last season. And I just think they match up pretty well. And of course, we have to mention fans are back in Premier League stadiums as well. So with over 60,000 Spurs fans rallying, maybe trying to remind Harry Kane what he would be missing if he went elsewhere, that will be a great atmosphere. And I'm going to be at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Sunday. Cannot wait for that one and the atmosphere in and around the streets in North London. Something I know I've been looking forward to. Everyone here in England has been looking forward to getting back into stadiums and getting back into those routines as safely as possible. And the Premier League have done a really good job so far, being very clear about how it's going to work, what the restrictions are all about. So I'm intrigued to see how that works. I'm intrigued to see Brentford against Arsenal as well. I'm going to be there at the Brentford Community Stadium. Friday night kicks off the Premier League season, Brentford's first ever campaign in the Premier League. And Ivan Toney, all eyes are on him. Can he do it in the Premier League? He absolutely tore it up in the Championship last year as a top goal scorer. Love what Thomas Frank has done. Obviously, a very good attacking team. I think it's going to be another situation like Norwich a few seasons ago. Obviously, Bournemouth and Blackpool, if you can remember back that far, when they came into the Premier League, and they just went for it. I don't think Brentford are going to be sitting back against anybody. They're going to be exciting, attacking to watch, play to their strengths. Love the money ball, obviously, transfer moves they've been making through Danish football for a while now with their ownership, and they've always stayed true to that. And I'm intrigued to see what the atmosphere is going to be like. A tight little stadium, brand new stadium in West London, right next to the motorway. You got loads going on around you. And Arsenal, this is a very good time to play them at the start of the season. As we said, Mikel Arteta under some pressure, hasn't been able to shift on a few big name players for the Gunners, a few injuries to key players as well this summer. So I fancy an upset here for Brentford on their Premier League debut. I can see it, maybe even a draw, but I'm really excited for this one. And I'm really excited for Brentford to arrive in the Premier League, because they will be a story this season that we will focus on a lot. So, Andy, I know you're the resident Brentford expert. So any words on there? I can see a picture of Griffin Park, the old Griffin Park behind you on a trip that you had to London many years ago. What are your thoughts on Brentford in the Premier League?
Yeah, it's like you say, it's going to be a fantastic story to follow all season long. And if you want to kind of look from the outside as a fan of another club at a club that is run by a lot of adults, as we've talked about this week already, and just very, very smartly and sharply and cleverly the way that they do everything. Just have a look at Brentford. They play some good stuff on the field. They do even better stuff off the field in the way that they build the squad. Look at some of the alumni that have moved on from Brentford into the Premier League. Them, Neil Mopai, Saeed Ben-Rama, Ollie Watkins, all in the last 3 years. There's a lot going on at Brentford. They're gonna really add something to the Premier League, and it's not every year I think that we can say that about newly promoted teams, but they are absolutely one of them that will.
Definitely. Nick Mendola, Manchester United against Leeds United is another big game. Obviously, huge derby match there between the Lancashire and Yorkshire rivals. At Old Trafford, what do you think about this one, mate? Because I know Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, we gave him some stick over the last few years, but second place last season. Do you think United can better that? But what about this game? Because the play in Leeds and Marcelo Bielsa, interesting one, right? Because United have had a lot of players away and have only just come back after a busy, busy summer.
Right. Like, you're not going to see Sancho or Varane for more than a few minutes. If even. I think, can they finish higher than second? Sure they can. Will they? I don't think so. I think it's still a bit of too big of an ask. The midfield's a big question, as Andy said in an earlier segment. That said, they are missing some people this week. And, Leeds still has Rafinha. They still have Calvin Phillips. I'm assuming he'll be ready to go. At least I haven't, unless I missed something. I think this is still a United game. I just don't expect the fireworks that maybe you'll expect when everybody's there. Should Bruno Fernandes be enough to get the job done along with Paul Pogba? Yes, I do think that'll be the case. I just don't know if we'll be seeing the 4-1s, which I think we'll see a lot this year for that team. I think we're going to see them score an awful lot of goals. My big question with Leeds, really why I struggle to put them anywhere on the table, is do we believe in Patrick Bamford? Do we believe that he can be their number one guy for a few seasons, because he was a big-time prospect not too long ago? Are we buying him? If we're buying him, then Leeds can contend for a Europa League place.
And it's that sophomore slump situation, right? In terms of teams now have played against them a couple of times last season. How can Bielsa mix it up? I'm sure he will. If anybody can, he will do that. But that very unique style of play that they have, can teams adapt to that? Have they learned about that? We see that often, don't we? If a team stays up in the Premier League after a very good first season, then they will slump a little bit and maybe teams will figure them out. But I think with Leeds United, they're a different kind of animal under Bielsa. Made some smart signings in the summer window, got some players back healthy. And like you said, Nick, it all depends on the service to Bamford. Him and Rafinha, they give him the X factor. Everything else is going on. They work so hard. But if those two are on fire again this season, then I think Leeds are looking at a solid top 10 finish. So other games to keep an eye on: Watford against Aston Villa. New look Aston Villa after Jack Grealish has left. Intrigued to see how they look with some of the new players there. Danny Ings is their main man, you say, now up top after his move from Southampton. Leicester City against Wolverhampton Wanderers. Again, new manager at Wolves, Bruno Lage. And obviously seeing how they react with Raul Jimenez back up top. That could be huge for them this season. And Leicester, as Andy mentioned, made some really smart moves in the off-season. And Norwich City, another new team back in the Premier League, the perennial yo-yo team, aren't they? Back and forward under Daniel Farke, but made some really good signings. US men's national team striker Josh Sargent, Milo Rashica, obviously Billy Gilmore on loan. Really like what Norwich have done in the off-season. Let's see if they can do better than last time in the Premier League. But Liverpool, with the defenders back, the way they finished last season, you have to think that Jurgen Klopp's side will try and put down a marker early in the season. So lots to look forward to in the opening weekend of the Premier League, lads. Over at Pro Soccer Talk at NBCSports.com, we'll have you covered with all the schedules, stream news, how to watch these games, plus reactions and our analysis. As we said, the marathon begins this weekend in August. It will end on the 22nd of May. So we've got some time to figure this out. But it is really, really good to have the Premier League back. So Nick and Andy, thanks so much for joining me for Pro Soccer Talk this week. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Enjoy the opening weekend, and we'll speak to you all very soon. Cheers, guys.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe. Make sure you subscribe to watch highlights all season long and join us at the weekend at 7 a.m. Eastern on NBCSN for Premier League mornings, and sign up for Peacock Premium, where you'll have access to 175 exclusive live games all season long.